Old powers waken, shadows stir. An age of wonder and terror will soon be upon us. An age for gods and heroes.
The glass candles are burning, and you're listening to the Obsidian Nights podcast. On today's episode of Obsidian Nights, where we go through A Song of Ice and Fire chapter by chapter, I am joined by Ara. I'm so glad to be doing an episode of Obsidian Nights with you because you've been a big supporter of mine for years, and I appreciate you, and you have such good insight, and we agree on a lot. So this feels like a conversation with a girlfriend. Would you like to introduce yourself to the Sweet Summer family?
Yes. Hello, everyone. My name is Ara. You can find me on all the socials at I Eat Zebra. Yes, that is all one word. And I know it's a little bit odd. All I'm going to say is just don't smoke weed with being hungry watching Lion King. That's all I got to say about that one because I always get questions about it. But anyway.
Awesome.
I was in high school. It was super weird.
Look, we've all been there.
Yep, and hey, it stuck, so I'm like, why change it at this point?
Yeah, it's good. It's a good name. And her Twitter information will be in the description box below, so you can go show her some love on Twitter. So we're going to be getting into a chapter, and today's chapter is like a heavy chapter. So we're coming off Sansa 1 with the big fight between Arya and Joffrey. It's 4 days later. Jory has found Arya, and Arya has been taken before the king and the queen to answer for her crimes. Like, during your reread, what were your initial thoughts of this whole entire chapter?
My first thought was, Ned, turn around and go home. Like, clearly Robert's not going to listen to you. He's already shown a few times that he's very indecisive. Cersei clearly holds the power in that relationship. And she's very cruel. And Joffrey also showed his cruelty in a more subtle way. And it did not go the way he expected because he clearly can't play the Game of Thrones that well. So he should have just turned home. You weren't that far. You're only in like the Riverlands. It's a quick ride back up to Winterfell. Like, I don't know why he just didn't turn around because everything from there just got so much more worse.
Yeah, I agree. Like, I've said it a lot. I think Ned Stark is dumb. And I like Ned. I love Ned Stark, but let's be honest here. Ned Stark has been getting red flag after red flag after red flag, and this is the biggest of them all. This is the biggest red flag. Like, if it was me, I would say fuck Robert, fuck all of these people, fuck all of this, pack all my shit up, take my kids, and head back north. But Ned, he just kind of like ignores all the red flags. And to me, this situation that happened in this chapter isn't even a red flag. This is a red plane with a banner attached to it, like a plane that flies over a baseball game. Like, it's so blatantly obvious that Robert isn't the same, and nothing Ned is going to do is going to change who Robert is.
Exactly. And don't get me wrong, I love Ned. I love Ned so much. He's one of my favorite like POV chapters. I was sad at like the loss of his like insight so early on in the grand story when you think about it. And the reason this happened is because at this point he didn't turn around. I'm like, just like you said, Robert's not the same man anymore at all, not even remotely the same man. And he clearly is not a great king. He doesn't know how to make decisions on his own. He doesn't have the same like moral grounding that Ned has. Ned is a very honorable man. And he even says like, this is kids squabbling, but he rather appease Cersei because he knows like the wrath that he could face on that side. Because it's, you know, it's a lion. She's not going to sit there and take something like, she's not going to take it lightly.
Yeah.
What happened to Joffrey?
Yeah, no, she isn't. And that's what I'm saying. Like, Robert is neutered, right? Like, Cersei has him, like, she has his balls. And he kind of already told Ned this when they were in the Barrowlands. Like, he's already, if Robert wants to make Jaime Lannister Warden of the East, he didn't come to this decision on his own. Like, this is something that was fed to him. And who was it fed by? The Lannisters. So Ned already knew in the Barrowlands that the Lannisters had power over Robert, not any relationship that they had when they were kids. So, and yeah, Cersei's definitely not going to let her perfect son be attacked by two kids, which is a lie. And
definitely.
and all of that. She's not going to let that slide. And I don't know, one thing that really sticks out in this chapter, but besides Ned being missing the red flags, is that this is the first taste of what's considered Southern justice. The Stark children, Arya and Sansa, they have always been in a position where they were above people. They've always been like the royalty in their circles. But now there's like a new dynamic that's being introduced to them where they are in circles with people that are above them, like socially. So with royalty. And it's a different situation for all of them, but especially Arya and Sansa. Like, I'm sure Arya nor Sansa thought that this situation would result in the death of Lady and the death of the butcher's boy, because in Winterfell, this wouldn't have happened. This is a Southern thing.
Oh, definitely. It's especially where Cersei is talking about Sir Ilyn killing Lady, and unfortunately at the end of this chapter, Ned has to do that deed himself. But I feel like a lot of that going off of Sansa and Arya has to do with Sansa willfully choosing to say she doesn't remember what happened when the preceding chapter is Sansa's point of view of what actually happened.
Right.
Which is like, to me, it's like, and Ned knows this. Ned, like, he said Sansa told him the truth. He brought Sansa there to corroborate Arya's story, and her deciding not to resulted in the death of Lady.
Yeah, and you know, honey, we gonna talk
Girl,
about
I'm like, Sansa, you know how I feel.
I know how you feel.
The minute I heard her name, I was like, oh, I love the Direwolf so much. That's why I was like, a lot of this is on you.
Yeah, like Sansa, okay, I get it. She's a kid. She's been taught obedience and this and all of these things. And the one time she should be obedient to the king and tell what happened, she doesn't. She goes against everything that she's been trained to do, because everyone's like, oh yeah, well, she was taught this way, she was brought up this way, blah 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 blah. But then why didn't she act the way that she was brought up in this moment? Why did she not care? Because honestly, to me, it's like she doesn't care that this boy, whether you're supposed to marry him or not, this boy tried to kill your sister. He fought your sister with a steel blade. It was intentions to hurt her or kill her. And you'll sit there and lie for him after you've already told your dad the truth. And then Ned knows and he doesn't say anything.
Yeah, that's what like gets me every single time. It's your sister of all people. And not only that, like her being a Stark, everybody thinks of them as being like very honorable people, and realistically that's kind of just Ned and Ned's ways, because if you compare him to his siblings, I wouldn't say they're as honorable. But that's besides the point. Let me stop about dragging the Starks for no reason. For people who are like, she really doesn't like them, like, no, I do. But Sansa's other half is a Tully, which is family, duty, honor. You're completely besmirching that for a boy you barely know that clearly already showed signs of cruelty. And when Cersei orders the death of Lady, and I'm sorry, I know we're jumping a little ahead, but when Cersei eventually orders the death of Lady, he's smiling next to her. Like, he is showing who he is, and she still just does not see it.
She doesn't. And
compared to Arya, who's already seen through it.
Oh, Arya seen that shit before they left Winterfell.
Exactly. So it's like... Girl.
It's because she has like this vision that she has like this idea of the world where she's going to have this perfect picture image of this man and he's going to be her Prince Charming like the songs, and she doesn't want to ruin it for herself. She's a very selfish person.
She really is. She romanticizes like her life or how she thinks her life should be. Like it's always about the songs. She always brings up different songs in a lot of her POV chapters. Like she thinks she's Jonquil. Like that's how she wants her life to be. And
Exactly.
unfortunately, here's like the real beginning. Not even the, because I feel like her previous chapter should have been a big red flag. But to show her like that your life isn't a song. People can be cruel. Even the prince, the beautiful prince and the beautiful queen can be really cruel and mean people.
Yeah, she
And
doesn't.
even this still doesn't get through to her, which is,
No.
I guess that's kind of why I really just don't like Sansa, because I'm like, I always felt more like Arya. No, this guy is clearly like a really mean person. Like why, like why are you siding with him? Why are you lying? Like I feel why Arya's passionate. Like I had to just dismiss my direwolf. You know what, like you as somebody who has a direwolf know like what these wolves mean to us. I just had to push mine away. Then on top of all that, my friend just got killed. I just still like at the end of the day got assaulted by the prince, and you, my sister, aren't defending me. I totally understood why you lashed out, because I would have did the same thing. Like,
no, yeah, Arya was totally a mood. She was
yeah, so I was like, don't get me wrong, it's not all this arcs because I really like Arya, because I would have done the same thing. Like Sansa, why? Like, you know what happened? Why are you lying? And then like to pay that consequence, and like, oh, it's so sad.
and she doesn't really learn from that situation. Like it would be a lot better like if she did that and then we see her learn from it. She doesn't learn from it.
She's a slow learner.
I
hate to bring up show references, but that was a good one when she said she's a slow learner. I'm like, yes, you are, girl.
She really is. But you know what I think George is doing with Joffrey and Sansa? I could be totally wrong, but George had said in an interview, like he tries to make like there's this trope where the evil villains are ugly and black. They all wear black. Like I think he was referencing the orcs from Lord of the Rings.
About, yeah.
And he wanted to make the villains of the story beautiful. So like the Lannisters, they wear bright gold and crimson, and they're all described as beautiful people, but they're actually the villains.
And the only one that you sympathize with is Tyrion, who's considered the hideous one, and
right, the ugly one, exactly. Yep. And Sansa has taken that trope and put it on her real life. Like in the stories and songs, all the heroes are handsome and beautiful, and the ugly people are the villains. And that's why she looks at the Hound and Sir Ilan Payne, even though they're awful people, but she looks at them and they creep her out, when actually the Hound isn't as bad as Joffrey. Sir Ilan isn't as bad as Joffrey. Like the worst person, the person that she sees as the most beautiful, perfect prince, is actually the evil villain. I think George kind of like twisted that up in there in Sansa's story.
Oh, definitely. You can see like the clear, like not wanting to be so blatantly this is good and this is bad. Like just because they're wearing all white with the gold cloaks and the white cloaks and in the city watch defending the king, that doesn't mean these are good people. Look what they did to your dad, Sansa. But
yeah.
Anyway, I'm like, anyways. That drag back. I'm sorry.
Totally.
I get really passionate about this because I'm like, I really can't believe she did that.
You said you wanted to talk about Renly.
Oh, I did want to talk about Renly. I am so mad that the show only watchers missed Renly's great line when he walks out and he's just like, lion's tooth. Ha.
Oh.
Or guffaw. I'm like, that is too funny.
I know. And they gave his line about the disarming, how that little girl at the size of a rat disarm you, they gave that line to Robert. So Renly wasn't even there. He didn't even, they just didn't even have the honor guard come, which kind of sucked.
Yeah, and I'm gonna be that person. I like Book Renly.
I like Book Renly too. A lot of people don't.
I know they do. Honestly, one thing that bothered me with Renly, I'm like, Stannis clearly is not going to have a son. You could be his heir, and things happen and more. So like, just fall in line real quick, and then you can probably get what you want if you just play the long game. But whatever, Renly.
Yeah, I mean, I get why people don't like him as far as him like usurping his brother.
I like his personality,
but his personality is dope.
He's more charismatic because like how they say like Stannis was like the only one of the Baratheon brothers that just like didn't have that same charisma that could like rally people to follow them.
Yeah, he didn't, which is weird because they all had the same mother and father, but he's got that middle child. He's got that middle child syndrome. I got a little touch of that.
No, he really does though, because he's like, they don't love me like they love my brothers. Like all sad all the time, and it's like, I mean, you're kind of not helping the situation, pal. But at the same time, I feel him where he's like, Renly should fall in line, and Renly should have fallen in line. But other than that, when we're in this chapter, Renly is pretty funny in my opinion, even though he's in there for a short period of time. 'Cause it's not really that long of a chapter.
Yeah, it's really short. It's basically kind of to the point of what ultimately happens, which is Lady's execution by Ned Stark. And I wanted to talk about the Direwolves for a second because I really love them. I really love the Direwolves. And Lady is one of my favorite Direwolves because I don't know, it's like when she was lost so soon that the whole rest of the books, it's like, oh, what if Lady was still here? Like, what if Lady made it to King's Landing? But she didn't. And Ned, when he talks about the Direwolves, when he goes to do the execution on Lady, he says, like, he had never paid attention to them before. And
their names.
Yeah, their names.
It's like, I really wanted to get to this because I was like, girl, I have notes. I was like,
okay.
For their names, because I'm like, because I feel like everybody has their own thoughts as to like the interpretations. I feel like the names are very important to each one of the Stark children.
Oh, they are, totally.
So when he like even says it, like how Lady acts, like Sansa, like with the perfect name, she's the most well behaved, she's the prettiest, she's like Sansa, she's a mirror to Sansa.
Definitely.
So I kind of agree with you that I think it represents. I feel like they have the same fate, so I think Sansa might die in the books. But
I was about to say, so what could that mean?
But I feel like that was his original path. Who knows now? Because like he says, that's a garden.
Yeah, totally. And that's what I wonder. Like, how much has changed since this chapter? Lady, he said, tasting the name. He had never paid much attention to the names the children had picked, but looking at her now, he knew that Sansa had chosen well. She was the smallest of the litter, the prettiest, the most gentle and trusting. She looked at him with bright golden eyes, and he ruffled her thick gray fur. So, like you were saying, completely matches Sansa. The prettiest Stark, the smallest, and I'm saying or the smallest of the litter. I say that because she's like the most passive of the litter. Like, she's like, of all the Stark children, she's not the smallest. Of course, Rickon's the smallest, but in like figuratively, I would say like she has the most calm personality. And she's also the most gentle of the Starks, and she's the most trusting. Like, when you look at Ned, Lady doesn't bite him. Like, Ned's never interacted with Lady before. Lady just trusts him. Well, I don't know if Ned's ever like went up to Lady and tried to pet her before, but
I'm pretty sure Lady is the only one that they explicitly say that he's touched.
He has. Like, right now, at this point, or before?
Yeah. No, I'm trying to think like if he touched any of the other direwolves, like explicitly, like if they've said he's touched their other ones. He might have, like, obviously without it being said.
Without it being said, yeah. I know, like, when they found him, he was like, you're going to take care of him yourself. You're going to feed him yourself. You're going to train him yourself. Like, I don't want to be bothered with this. These servants don't want to be bothered with this. So,
Yeah,
I don't
remember him
know.
holding one
So,
while saying it.
I definitely think that could mean that, like, that's a representation of Sansa. Like, Sansa's gentle and trusting, and she's willingly walking right into the lion's den with their fangs open and out, and she's going to be devoured, basically. Because even though she does end up escaping King's Landing, she doesn't escape the same person, and she does suffer a lot.
Yes, she does.
And it was because she trusted the wrong people, like just like Lady trusting Ned Stark when she should have bit his fucking hand off
and ran away.
and ran away to be with her sister in the Riverlands. But I definitely think, like, these direwolves all mirror the owners. They all do. And like, if so far we've lost Lady and we've lost Greywind in the books, and
Yeah.
Greywind dies exactly the same way Robb dies.
Honestly, I feel so bad when they take off his head and put it like on Robb's body. Like when they take Greywind's head off and put it on Robb's body.
Yes.
And Arya has to see that. I'm like, that's so traumatizing.
And they wonder why she wants to be a faceless man. That's why.
Can you imagine seeing your older brother, the older brother that you love, and his direwolf? Like, oh my gosh, that poor girl. But Greywind and like Robb, I wish we could have gotten Robb's head, honestly, sometimes.
Yeah. But I wonder, like, if I feel like his thoughts would have been really shallow.
Probably.
Because he's so young and entitled in a different way than everyone else. Like, I don't think we have, like, the biggest POV we have is from, like, a Lord's perspective is Tyrion. We have Jaime, but Jaime's really not like a lord. I guess you could say he's a lord, but really he's like giving up all lands and titles. But to have like the perspective, the point of view of the king in the north, like that's a huge POV. But then again, we have Daenerys, so
yeah. I feel like we get a lot of Robb through Cat, so
yeah, it
makes up for it. But all those Stark kids being wargs, and one thing that like always bothers me is we don't get it confirmed for Sansa, even though I think George has said it off the record that she was as well.
Yeah, she was.
That's what
he said. All of them were.
All of them were. It goes to show you how like strong that connection was.
Yeah, and you have to. Every time I read about these wolves, I'm always thinking like, what does this mean? What is George trying to tell us? Because he's trying to tell us something. He's leaving clues when it comes to what the wolves actually represent, what they mean, what they foreshadow. And I totally think it means that Sansa is going to go in the place of Arya, like Lady went in the place of Nymeria. And I think that would be full circle for her. Just like I think
redemption arc.
Yeah, just like I think with Jaime possibly being the Valonqar and ending his sister would be full circle for him, but even still not really, because I don't know, like, is killing your lover, is that a redemption? Like, it's kind of gray in my opinion.
Yeah, I think it would depend on what Cersei was trying to do. If she was trying to pull like an heiress type stunt, then yeah, you might have to,
yeah,
clean her real quick. But oh my goodness, I just lost my train of thought.
I did too.
Oh, but in regards to like the fate, I think with Sansa taking the place of Arya, that would be, in my opinion, a redemption arc for Sansa, because I personally agree with you on this. Like the beginning, like the Game of Thrones book itself, even up until like for me, I'm rereading now. I'm at A Storm of Swords, and I'm just starting to come around to Sansa.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, Sansa, to me, Sansa owes Arya.
Yeah,
Like,
she does.
she owes her. I mean, I don't want to say she owes her, but like, at least be a sister to her, because
Yeah,
she
well, I mean,
doesn't have that. And Sansa's never been that for her.
oh no, they used to like tease her and stuff like that. Call her like, what was it, Arya Horseface or Arya Underfoot? Like,
Yeah. Like, she was always the outcast. And that's why her and Jon were so close. And you know what really fucked me up about this chapter? The butcher's boy death.
oh, Micah, like that act would have been the final. Like, it's bad enough you just had to kill Lady, but to see the Hound and the way he just disregards his body, like his blatant disregard of this young boy's life. The butcher's boy was what, like 11 maybe, I would say.
Maybe 11, like, if we're being generous. He's
For
probably
being
younger
generous,
than me.
because like Arya at the time I think is like 8 maybe in the books.
Yeah, Sansa's 11, Arya's 8.
Yeah, so like they're all fairly young, so for him to just drop that little boy's body, like I just had to like put down my daughters, like, and they're not just direwolf, they're more like a spirit guides in my opinion.
Yeah,
Like
they
I had
are.
to put that my daughter's like spirit guide down, and then now I have to tell my other daughter like, oh, by the way, they just killed your friend as well.
Definitely, like,
For something that
emotionally.
you asked him to do with you. Like, it's like, we're just sword fighting. We're just playing like innocently until this kid came around and caused trouble with us. And now we both lost our wolves and he's dead. Like, I'm sorry. Like, that, I would turn around so fast. I'm just like, Cersei is just flexing right now.
Yeah.
Like, there's so many, like, red, like, flags and warning signs. It's like, stop, turn around, do not enter King's Landing, because clearly if you can't handle Cersei and outmaneuver Cersei in this situation, and now you're adding in other players when you go further south, like Varys, Littlefinger, Pycelle, Renly at that point, like, you can't handle that. You're not ready for that type of level of politicking.
Yeah, I mean, he's been in the North for so long. He's been so removed from like what happens in the South, and he's not Jon Arryn, and he's not Stannis, and he's not Renly, he's not Littlefinger. He's so much the opposite. Like, it was a very bad decision for Robert to choose Ned, but I understand like why he did. He did because at the end of the day, he actually trusts Ned. And he's running out of people that he trusts. So I get why he did it, but it was still stupid. But when we talk about like the Butcher's Boy, when I first like read it and even rereading it, and even when in the last chapter, in the Sansa 1 chapter, when the Butcher's Boy is like, she asked me to, my lord, she asked me to. I'm like, I started getting teary-eyed. I was like, oh my God. Like, because he did nothing, and it's morally sickening, because you see like the value of human life in Westeros and the value of a child's life over like the word of a prince, and it's just awful. And George writes historical realism, so like I get it, but it really sucks. And it kind of turned me off when it comes to the Hound. The Hound becomes more likable later, but the Hound in Eddard 3 is a vile piece of shit. So like, if you think the Hound is bomb but like hate Jaime Lannister, I don't get it. Like, yeah, Jaime pushed a kid out the window and he's redeeming himself. Yeah, the Hound butchered a little boy and just let his body slide off the back of his horse while he was laughing.
Yeah, so my difference with Jaime and the Hound in that situation is, I obviously, pushing a kid out of the window is terrible, but I understood why Jaime did it, because he's like, honestly, Jaime's a brash thinker. He does not, he reacts. He's a very reactionary person. So he just does what the first thing that comes to his mind, and he's like, honestly, this kid just saw us doing something. If he starts talking, not only am I dead, she's dead, these kids are dead, my brother's dead. Like, I'm not going to let that happen. So in the spur of the moment, he, just drops Bran, and he's not thinking clearly, but I get why he's doing it. He's like, I'm doing this to protect my family. The Hound killing Micah, that's just cruelty.
Yeah.
That that little Joffrey is just not in his right of mind, and he's a cruel person by now. He should know how sadistic Joffrey is firsthand, because he's like his protector, his shield. Like, you are always with this child, so you know how he acts. So for him to order you to kill a child, and you're laughing about it, that's way worse than Jaime. So I don't understand how you can like the Hound over Jaime in that situation. Like, if you're going on their moral like standings, like the Hound is terrible in that situation.
Yeah, he totally is. And I mean, I guess you could say, well, he was ordered to do it. He has to follow orders. Fuck them orders. Like you said, like, whose orders you're following.
Yeah, just tell the kid to run off. But like, hey, just run into the woods, never come back. Like, do like the hyenas did in like Lion King, like, go and never come back, or we'll kill you. Like, do one of those to the butcher's boy, because this is a child. You're scary as hell. Like, look how big he is.
Yeah, so
Like,
I mean,
I'm pretty positive if you told the kid to run off, it would have been fine. But no, you took joy and said, "Oh, he didn't run very fast."
yeah, I mean, it's like,
So sad.
it's awful. Like, and like that Ned, okay, they've killed Lady. Now do you see what they've done to this child? Leave. And then I will say, like, I 100% respect that Ned made Jory take Lady all the way to the north.
Oh, me too, because it's like poor Ned's bones are lost somewhere.
Yes, but
and I feel like Barbary Dustin has something to do with it, but that's a
she does. Look,
that's a totally separate topic.
She is pressed over Brandon Stark. He done been dead for 16 years, and she is still stigmatized over him.
Can we talk about how Brandon Stark and Robb Stark are two totally different people? Because if Brandon was Robb's father, him taking Jane Westerling's like virginity would not have resulted in a marriage.
No, never.
Clearly, Brandon did not care. So I'm like, it wasn't all the Starks. This is just Ned, and that's why these kids are so naive. It's because Ned has this like strong moral. He's a prude. To be honest, Ned is a huge prude.
Yeah, all of the Starks are. I got that vibe from
very
Benjen.
Sheltered. They think they're better than other people, and then when they see how cruel the real world is, like, some of them realize faster than others, but it hits them like a ton of bricks.
Yeah, I mean, I like Ned. I don't know if you listen to the Nodacast. Do you listen to them?
No, to be quite honest.
I've
heard of them though.
They were talking about, I thought it was really good, like the summary, or basically what they summarized, like the reason that we like Ned is because he is like this war hero kind of guy that is just trying to deal with the ghosts from his past, and like that's what makes him interesting. No matter, like, him being dumb is basically, I mean, they didn't say that him being dumb, but I'm saying him being dumb is basically like a plot mover kind of thing. Like, he has to be dumb or we don't get a story.
Exactly.
And I don't dislike him because he's dumb. I don't dislike him at all. Like, I love him. Like, that's my dad. Like, what you mean? Ned Stark is my dad. So I love Ned. I love his POV. But what I love about him isn't his politics and how he runs things and how he does things. It's the ghosts that he deals with from his past. And I think Nodacast did a really good job when they talked about that.
Yeah. Well, another thing I really like about Ned, like, is he stays true to himself. Like, he does not waver from his beliefs. And the only time, like, he kind of like, well, actually, I shouldn't say the only time. He's kind of dishonored himself a couple of times, but they're for honorable reasons, like publicly saying, like, oh, John's my bastard, when it's my nephew at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like it's a very honorable thing to do, even though you're publicly making it seem like you did something wrong. And, for example, like, to the public eye, he did commit treason against Joffrey. They don't know the truth. Even though Stannis kind of sends letters out later on kind of telling people what happened, but a lot of people still didn't believe them. Well, I shouldn't say a lot. Some didn't believe, some did. But the general masses, like the small folk, they all think Ned's big traitor, and his whole like legacy, I feel like, got besmirched by that final like moment when he unfortunately played his hand incorrectly and got himself killed.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. When it comes to like this story, when I think we're all guilty of this. I know I'm guilty of this. I always go back and look at like these moments and like, damn, if this didn't happen, damn, that person was so stupid, or that person should have never done that. But like these things had to happen. I'm guilty of that with Catelyn.
Oh, me too. Me too. I'm like, why did you negotiate that deal? But
Yeah, why did you free Jaime?
oh, that too.
Why
Oh
did
my
you
god.
capture Tyrion? But then I'm like, okay, well, if she doesn't capture Tyrion, then do we have a story?
Exactly. The death of Lady kind of being a result of Sansa lying, also foreshadowing what happens in the Red Keep when she pretty much like goes against her family and tells on what they're planning on doing. Even though her father said, don't tell anybody. Is like, oh, hey, we're leaving. And then all these people die as a result of that. And she had to deal with that consequence. Just like her lying in this situation, she had to deal with the consequences of losing a lady.
Yeah, and that's what I was saying when I was saying she didn't learn from it, because she does the exact same thing. Well, not the exact, but you might as well say the same thing again. Like, you've already been here. You've already betrayed your family once for these people, and you saw what happened. Why would you do it again? Because this time when you do it again, you're not going to just lose Lady. You're going to lose your dad.
Yeah, it's like you lost your dad. You lost your septa.
Your sister.
Your sister. You lost, because Jane Poole goes missing for a while.
Right.
If
Fat
I'm
Tom,
thinking.
like it was basically a
Dad's
wipeout of
whole
Winterfell.
household.
Yeah.
Like you lost, like they lost what, Jory, like a little bit before Ned.
Yep.
And
And with Jaime, with the brawl with Jaime.
exactly. So I'm like, I feel like the loss of Lady should have been enough for her.
Mm-hmm.
But they have that same naivety going on because like Sansa has it, Jon has it, Bran has it a little bit, Robb clearly has it.
Yeah. I hate this chapter. Like, I'm just sitting here thinking, I hate this fucking chapter. This chapter sucks balls.
It's so sad because it's like you're like dealing with not only the loss of Lady, the death of Micah, then you're also dealing with like your frustrations at different characters and how they like behaved in the situation. But again, like you said, that if they didn't act this way, we wouldn't have a story to talk about.
Yeah. Yeah. But I mean, as we go forward, we're going to see the pace. Like, this chapter really steps the pace up, like going forward. Like, it raises the stakes. Like, we've seen how court is going to be handled, how justice is going to be handled. We see that things aren't going to happen in a fair way going forward. Like, this really raises the bar, like raises the standards. You feel like they're not safe going to King's Landing. At least I did. Did you?
Oh, I felt the same way because I'm like, clearly, like this is happening on the road. Imagine when they're like on their home court, like
Yes.
they're in what, Raymond Derry's castle, and that in itself is like something I feel like that kind of gets like swept under the rug a little bit by like most people when they're going through that chapter because everything else is so heavy. But like you're having this situation happen in the home of somebody that doesn't even like you. You killed a couple of his brothers. And if I'm not mistaken, isn't he related to the same Kingsguard that took Daenerys and Viserys over?
Yes, Sir Willem. Yes.
Yeah, so I'm like my family took heavy losses because of you, and here you guys are like invading my space. Like,
I wonder if Ned knows anything about. I mean, I wonder if Lord Derry knows anything about Ned and Jon Snow, because when Ned goes in the room and he's like looking for people that gonna have nice supportive faces towards him. Lord Derry does. Like, he regards him nicely, I think he said.
His eyes swept the room, searching for friendly faces, but for his own men, they were few enough. Sir Raymond Derry guarded his look well. Lord Renly wore a half smile that might mean anything, and old Sir Barristan was grave. The rest were Lannister men and hostile.
Oh yeah, so they're alone.
Yeah, you're alone, and I feel like you're not even in King's Landing yet, and look how many people like outnumber you.
Oh God, it's like it
Now
just
you're
feels
adding
like
more people. It's like so many like warning after warning. Like
it really is, and it feels like so like dreadful and doom going to King's Landing, and it really is. Like that's really what it winds up being.
yeah, it is because you're like the whole time as the reader, you're just sitting here like, oh my goodness, what are you guys doing? What are you guys like? Why are you guys going down there? Like, I understand Ned wants to protect Robb in his mind. Like, clearly this woman has some type of sway over my brother. And I think Ned, just in his protective nature, is like, I want to get my brother back. We just lost our, like, father figure, Jon Arryn. Because in his eyes, he thinks that Cersei was involved in killing Jon Arryn, when in actuality it was Littlefinger and Lysa, yet they end up trusting them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you realized that I'm just thinking about this? Have you realized that all of Eddard's chapters, like leading up even to like even in this one, like the previous two, so the first one is in Crypts of Winterfell, so it's like we all are surrounded by the dead Starks. And then the second chapter is in the Barrowlands, which is all the barrows of the dead first men or kings, could be kings, I don't know. And then this one is actually like Lady dying, the butcher's boy dying in the Riverland. Like it's so much death in his chapter. I don't know if George was doing that on purpose to like foreshadow that Ned was going to die.
Yeah, I meant to ask, how close were they to the Trident in this chapter?
Yeah, they're right next to it.
Think about what that must mean for Ned and like, well, I'm assuming Robert as well. Like, this is like the site of like a big battle for you guys, like the victory of all victories. This is why Robert's on the throne, and the implications of what this meant to like Ned. Like he lost a brother, a father, and his sister.
Yes.
Due to that conflict. So like all those emotions are probably like running in his head, and here he is at the site of like the pretty much like the deciding point of the war. So you're dealing with that PTSD going on. Now you have to kill your daughter's wolf, and your daughters are upset, you're upset. Like it's kind of like all these heavy symbols. Like this chapter is just full of like death and reminders of death and just repeated death, just like screaming at you.
Yeah, a lot of it is. And then in Eddard 4, he's going to be at his graveyard in King's Landing.
Exactly. I'm like, you're just like, every chapter is like something really heavy is happening, or the implications of something heavy to come for Ned.
100%. 100%.
Oh, I meant to bring up one thing I wanted to talk about with the Direwolves and their names. The fact that the chapter right after when Ned, after this one is the chapter where Bran names Summer.
Yeah. Do you think that is a coincidence?
I do not think that's. I'm sorry. I do not think that's a coincidence. It's definitely intentional.
Yeah.
Like one of the final, like towards the end of it, is the chapter that we had mentioned earlier with Ned pretty much saying he didn't give much thought to the names of his children's wolves. And for Bran's, like the end of his chapter to be like Summer, my wolf's name is Summer. Right after you think it happened similar to how it happened in the show, like once Lady died, Bran woke up, like how they did that edit?
I mean, I don't know. It's not clear, but it could definitely be that. But the Ned is making the reader, like Ned says, I never paid attention to their names. So Ned is making the reader think about their names and describing her just like Sansa. And then we get Bran naming Summer. So there is supposed to be some connection that we draw between those two things.
Yeah, and in that Bran chapter, I don't want to get too far ahead since that's the next one, but and I take you guys are going to talk about it. Bran, pretty much the reason he names Summer Summer, it's in that whole chapter. Like that whole chapter's premise, like in my opinion, is the result of Summer's name and symbolism in Bran's storyline. Like the visions he gets from the three-eyed crow in the book, they lead up to like you know, kind of showing him the real threat that's out there.
Yeah.
And what kind of needs to be done. Like, Bran's really involved in what needs to be done, but I don't want to get too much into that 'cause that's for next.
That's next week, the Bran's coma dream. But that's basically it for Eddard 3, unless you have anything else you want to add.
I take it, yeah, no, we're sticking to the book. So I was going to say, the one thing that bothered me with the show's interpretation of it was how dialogue-wise, it was pretty accurate, obviously with a couple characters like omitted from it. But what bothered me was how they framed it to make it seem like Sansa being brought in was a surprise to Ned, not Ned's actually like intending on having Sansa there to corroborate his side of things.
Right, because he's already heard it.
Exactly. So I feel like they did that. It kind of made Ned look a little bit dumber to people that have only seen the show. Which kind of bothers me a little bit because I'm like, no, Ned had Sansa there for like
to make Sansa look, to make Sansa look a little bit better.
Yeah, and it helps improve like Sansa's image because it's like it makes it seem like oh wow, Sansa, you let them bring you in just to like not help out your sister, like,
right? Like you didn't already tell your dad this. And he's bringing you here because he knows what you're going to say. And then you just say, fuck you, Dad. I'm riding with the prince.
Exactly. I'm like, I wish that they framed it differently because it's like would have made Ned's PR campaign look a little better.
Yes, totally. But I want to thank you so much for coming on. I enjoyed talking about Eddard 3 with you. And I will definitely have you back on again if you want to come back on. It was a lot of fun.
Oh, I definitely had a great time, and I enjoyed talking about Ned 3, and I know I dragged him a bit and a couple of the other Starks, but I really do love them dearly. But I definitely want to come up for a Cersei chapter because, you know, I like the Lannisters a lot.
Oh, yeah, we're doing Cersei because I know like, the vibe is the same.
Kind of a Lannister person over here, but it's besides the point.
Oh, I'm a Targaryen. I'm a Targaryen, Lannister, Stark. Like, I love all of them.
I do, honestly. I love, like, all of them. I like a member from each house. Like, I always have a favorite from each individual one that I like, and I have ones that I don't like because that's just how George writes. He makes great characters. He doesn't make it seem like all the bad guys are on this team and all the good guys are on this team, and you know, that's why we read his books and enjoy them.
Yeah, he's so good. He he writes so realistically. Like I'm not gonna lie, like I like the Lord of the Rings, but I don't think I could reread the Lord of the Rings so many times as I've reread A Song of Ice and Fire, where I'm
totally
still discovering things.
Like I love the Lord of the Rings. Don't get me wrong. I've read that. I've read The Hobbit. I really couldn't get through the Silmarillion, but that's just
no, girl.
But I feel like, yeah, to me the characters seem very black and white to me. Yeah. Some characters do have a little bit more depth, but the overall majority of the characters are very like, for the most part, either morally good or morally bad. There's like nothing like in the middle, and that's why I really appreciate about the characters in George's story. Not only that, but I like the POV. Like different
the POV style
chapter. Yeah, I feel like it's a really great way to tell a story.
That's why Memory, Sorrow, and Thorn is so poppin'.
Oh my goodness, I love Memory, Sorrow, and Thorn, and if you do those, please get me involved because I
plan to do those. I just need to find the time to do all of the things I want to do because I want to do so much. Just gotta find the time to do it. And that is Eddard 3, and I will see you guys next week. Bye.